Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is a really deep exploration into a major strategic and technical overhaul happening right now inside the Telos ecosystem.
That's right.
We're looking at a foundational shift, really, moving from what's been a very successful layer one environment into the very complex and cutting edge world of zero knowledge technology.
Yeah, and when you really dig into the sources, the roadmaps, their manifesto, the technical papers, it's so clear this is far more than just, a simple version update.
All right.
We're talking about a fundamental reengineering. It spans infrastructure, privacy, ecosystem growth, and all of it seems to be centralizing around ZK Tech.
And we should probably be upfront with you, our listener, right away. This dive is going to take us into some of the most, let's say, challenging concepts in blockchain today. We're going to have to wrestle with hardware-accelerated ZK EVMs, with recursive proof aggregation protocols like Snarkator, and even a pretty specific cryptographic ritual they call the trusted setup ceremony.
And our goal is to, synthesize all of these details. Telos is executing this pivot right now in November 2025. And they're aiming to redefine themselves completely as a community-owned Web3 venture production studio.
A venture production studio?
Yeah, we're here to give you the shortcut to really understanding the mechanics and I think the implications of this very ambitious transition.
It's a compelling mission statement for sure. The whole move feels aggressive, tackling scaling and privacy at the exact same time.
What's fascinating here, I think, is the integrated approach. They are not just, bolting on a layer 2.
No.
They're overhauling the L1, launching a really sophisticated L2, and building a dedicated privacy mechanism from the ground up.
All at once.
All at once. It's a coordinated attempt to tackle performance, privacy, and utility simultaneously. It just forces Telos way beyond its traditional layer 1 structure.
Okay, so let's start where they did, solidifying the foundation. Because before you can stack all the complexity of ZK infrastructure on top, that base layer needs to be, totally optimized. We have to look at the foundation that's already been upgraded, Telos EVM 2.0. This is the latest iteration of their execution environment, and it seems, to me at least, entirely geared toward just increasing the underlying horsepower of the layer 1.
That's precisely the role of EVM 2.0.
Yeah.
It really acts as the performance prerequisite for everything else that follows. The core mission was kind of twofold. Enhance performance capabilities dramatically and critically improve developer accessibility.
Okay, let's focus on that accessibility piece first. They achieved full Ethereum RPC compatibility. For anyone listening who isn't a developer, why is that distinction so important?
Well, it's basically the difference between building a bridge or building a wall. RPC compatibility, that's remote procedure call compatibility.
Right.
If a developer has built tools or scripts or even entire apps on Ethereum, they use a standard set of commands to talk to the chain. By offering full RPC compatibility, Telos is ensuring that developers can literally just copy and paste their existing code bases and tools. We're talking MetaMask, Truffle, Hardhat, and they will just work.
So no learning curve.
Zero. It removes the entire friction of learning a new development environment. It makes the Telos chain instantly accessible to, frankly, the largest pool of blockchain talent out there.
So you're accelerating the onboarding process for developers by making the environment feel totally familiar, even though the underlying architecture, that DPoS system, might be really different from Ethereum's proof of stake.
Exactly. But, accessibility is only half the battle. They also introduce some really specific technical improvements. Enhanced scalability and these advanced execution extensions or XX tools.
Scalability makes sense. Higher transaction throughput.
Right, which is essential for any L1 that wants to handle enterprise-level traffic.
But these XX tools, the execution extensions, that sounds new. The sources were a little vague on this. What exactly is an XX tool, and what can a developer build with it now that they couldn't before?
So think of the main Telos EVM chain as this high-speed core engine. It's optimized for one thing: executing basic transactions and smart contracts as fast as possible.
Okay.
XX tools are like specialized parallel execution environments that plug into that core without taxing its resources. They allow for really complex custom functionality like data indexing or specialized state management or even complex crypto computations to run off to the side asynchronously while still drawing its security from the main L1.
Can you give us a tangible example? Like, what does this actually enable?
Sure. Before XX, if a developer wanted to build, say, a decentralized high-frequency trading bot that needed constant real-time data feeds from outside sources.
Like a stock market price feed.
Exactly. That data validation and all the processing would have just clogged up the core EVM and cost a fortune in gas.
Hmm.
With XX, they can build a specialized extension that handles all that off-chain data validation, computation, and rapid decision-making in its own high-performance lane.
And it only submits the final transaction back to the main chain.
Only the final critical validated trade execution goes back to the EVM core. It allows for the kind of sophisticated, low-latency applications that traditionally required centralized servers.
That significantly raises the ceiling on the complexity of applications the Layer 1 can support. So what, for the user, is an L1 that's faster for normal transactions, but can also support these next-gen, high-speed apps without buckling.
It's the essential horsepower for the ZK stack that's coming next.
Now, let's pivot from the technical foundation to the strategic architecture. The unveiling of the Telos Manifesto signals a shift that feels, well, it feels philosophical, not just technical.
It does.
They're raising a new flag, moving toward this new identity of a community-owned Web3 venture production studio.
And this rebrand is hugely significant. It shifts Kelos's role from just being a technological host of Layer 1 blockchain to becoming an active creator and incubator of value. A venture production studio implies intentional development, right?
Yeah, capital deployment, strategic guidance.
All for projects built on their chain. It's a much more hands-on approach.
And they tie this new identity directly back to their historical foundation in delegated proof of stake, DPoS.
Yes, and that connection is so vital for their credibility. DPoS provides inherent speed advantages, sure, but more importantly, it provides stability. The sources highlight nearly 400 million uninterrupted blocks since 2018.
That's a huge number.
It is. That historical reliability is the bedrock they're selling. They're essentially saying, we have a track record of stability that very few L1s can match. Now we are taking that stability and actively building the future on top of it.
You know, we often talk about stability in the abstract, but in the chaotic world of L1s, that's a massive differentiator. You just don't hear about networks reaching 400 million blocks without a major stoppage or critical bug.
It's a point worth dwelling on, I think. When major networks experience downtime or forced hard forks because of consensus failures, which has happened to several high-profile competitors, the whole ecosystem loses trust. Telos is leveraging DPoS's specific governance and consensus mechanism, which prioritizes throughput and reliability through elected validators, to offer this unprecedented uptime guarantee. It lets the new venture production studio promise a secure environment for high-value enterprise ventures.
So let's get to the core ethos of the manifesto. They redefine their vision around digital sovereignty and shared ownership. How does DPoS specifically enable that shared ownership vision for the new studio?
Well, shared ownership in this context is much more active than just passive staking. Because DPoS relies on token holders voting for and electing a set of validators, the community has direct, actionable control over the network's direction and security.
Much more so than in traditional proof of stake.
Far more immediately, yes. As a venture production studio, shared ownership means the community, the TLOS holders, will have a direct say in how the studio's success is distributed.
How so?
Potentially through governance decisions about which new projects to incubate, or through that buy or burn program we'll discuss later.
So it's a feedback loop. The reliable, community-controlled DPoS foundation enables the launch of these ventures.
And the success of those ventures flows directly back to the community via governance and the token mechanics. Precisely.
And digital sovereignty, the other piece.
That's the philosophical underpinning for this entire ZK pivot. Sovereignty requires control over your data and your identity, free from censorship or any third-party interference.
Okay, so that's why the privacy layer is so important to them.
It's non-negotiable for their long-term vision. They are aiming to build the infrastructure where users are truly, genuinely autonomous.
It's a strategic framework that provides the context for all the technical complexity that follows. They're building the ZK infrastructure not just to scale, but to deliver on this promise of sovereignty and shared, reliable governance. All right, now we move into the heart of the technical pivot. The big Q4 2025 initiatives focused entirely on zero-knowledge tech. These steps are described as the most significant milestones in Telos history.
And they are massive. We're looking at the simultaneous launch of a hardware-accelerated ZK EVM Layer 2 and the integration of a really complex proof aggregation and Gensartor. This is where Telos is attempting to leapfrog the competition in scaling.
Okay, let's start with the ZK EVM L2. We know a ZK EVM uses ZK proofs to verify transactions off-chain before rolling them up to the L1. But why is adding hardware accelerated such a crucial differentiator? What specific technical bottleneck is it solving?
It solves the single biggest pain point in ZK technology today: the immense computational cost of just generating the proof itself.
Yeah.
Generating a zero-knowledge proof, especially with the complex math like polynomial commitment schemes, needed to prove thousands of transactions. It's incredibly CPU-intensive. When it's done purely in software, this process leads to latency, high energy use, and high cost.
Which bottlenecks the entire L2?
Exactly. If the proving time is slow, the entire scaling benefit is basically nullified because users are just sitting there waiting for the proof to be generated before their transaction is finalized on layer 1.
So it defeats the purpose.
Completely. And this is why Telos's approach, targeting Q4 2025 with their partner Ponos Technology, is so innovative. They're deploying a solution that leverages what's called hardware-software co-design.
How does that co-design work, specifically with Ponos' hardware? Are we talking about standard GPUs here or something more specialized?
Oh, way more specialized. We're talking about highly specialized custom silicon. It's likely utilizing field-programmable gate arrays, FPGAs, or even custom ASICs.
ASICs, okay.
These are chips designed for one purpose: to handle mathematical operations crucial to ZK proofs. Things like large number polynomial multiplications and elliptic curve operations far, far faster and more energy efficiently than a general-purpose CPU or even a GPU.
So they're taking the heaviest mathematical lifting, the actual creation of the proof, and offloading it to hardware that's optimized for that single job.
Precisely. And by doing this, they get tangible, measurable results.
Cool.
Massive reductions in latency, which means faster confirmation times for users, significantly lower energy consumption, and, most importantly, dramatically reduced costs per proof.
That sounds like the competitive edge.
That is the competitive edge they're seeking against purely software-based ZK EVMs. If they can make proof generation cheap and basically instantaneous, the whole L2 becomes economically viable at a global scale.
That really does position them uniquely. I mean, if you look at the bigger picture, a lot of competing L2s are still wrestling with the speed and cost of proving.
And Telos is attacking this problem with silicon. And if you look at the logistics, the sources confirm key partners for distribution and development, Digital MOB and ATKA. So it looks like the complex task of integrating this specialized hardware into a decentralized network is well underway.
And this L2 solution will roll up to Ethereum?
Of course, yeah. It'll roll up its verified state changes to the Ethereum mainnet for final security settlement, which expands Telos's reach significantly. And a crucial detail for existing holders: TLOS will be the native token for paying fees and interacting with this L2 network, ensuring its utility remains absolutely central.
This sounds incredibly complex to execute at the same time as a brand new L1 architecture upgrade. That timeline, it requires some aggressive supporting infrastructure.
Which brings us to Snarkade.
Right. So even with hardware acceleration making individual proofs cheaper and faster to generate, you still have a challenge. What happens when thousands of users are submitting proofs all at once?
You can't just submit every single one of those to the Ethereum mainnet. It would just flood the L1 and drive gas costs through the roof. You have to combine them.
And that's where Snarkade, the decentralized recursive proof aggregation protocol, comes in.
Exactly. Snarkter is designed to take that massive stream of individual CK Snark proofs generated by the L2 and efficiently combine them into one single verifiable proof.
And that one tiny proof is what gets submitted to the L1.
That single succinct proof is what ultimately gets submitted to the L1 settlement layer, yes.
Let's dedicate a moment to unpack that term, decentralized recursive proof aggregation. The recursive part is probably the most complex bit.
Recursive aggregation means that the system takes a set of proofs, combines them into one proof of proofs, and then it takes that new aggregate proof and combines it with another set of proofs, and it just keeps repeating the process.
Like cryptographic Russian dolls.
That's a perfect analogy. It's like creating cryptographic Russian dolls, where each proof wrapper contains all the proofs that came before it. And this is mathematically powerful, because the final proof is always the same small size, whether it represents 10 transactions or 10 million.
So that architecture ensures scalability because the cost of verifying that final aggregate proof stays constant no matter how many transactions are bundled inside.
That's the core insight. And Snarkouter, being decentralized, ensures that the aggregation process itself isn't a centralized point of failure. It's designed to be highly scalable and cost-efficient.
What's the roadmap look like for it?
The progress shows intense work on achieving multi-chain aggregation capabilities, which is interesting. It implies that Snarkadder could eventually aggregate proofs not just from the TLOCK EVM, but maybe from other compatible ZK chains.
So it could become a sort of general-purpose ZK proving hub.
The ambition is huge, yeah. If it can handle multi-chain aggregation, it moves from being a TLO-specific tool to a potential piece of critical public infrastructure for the entire ZK space.
What about the economic model? I mean, who runs these aggregation nodes and how do they get rewarded?
That's a key area of development right now. The team is focusing heavily on decentralized scheduling, how proofs get assigned to aggregators, and the reward mechanisms. Aggregators will likely be staked entities, compensated in TLOS for their computational work.
So it keeps the protocol viable and decentralized.
Right. It spreads the computation across a network of participants who are all motivated by rewards.
The timeline for this is, again, aggressive. Full Smarter integration on mainnet is planned for the end of Q4 2025, right after the ZK EVM launch. That means the whole system has to be functional almost immediately.
It does. It shows a lot of confidence in their development process and their partners. The hardware-accelerated ZK EVM launches, starts generating proofs, and almost immediately, Snarktor is there to efficiently compress them.
Delivering on the promise.
Delivering the promised high throughput. The target for the fully decentralized protocol, where the entire reward and scheduling system is trustless and automated, that's Q1 2026. This schedule just reinforces their commitment to getting all the pieces of the puzzle in place very, very quickly.
So we have the optimized L1 base, the fast L2 execution engine, and the aggregation mechanism. But speed without privacy doesn't fulfill that digital sovereignty mandate we talked about.
No, it doesn't.
So let's shift to the dedicated layer they're building for secrecy. Privacy is clearly a major focus, with a really structured roadmap aiming for a mainnet deployment by the end of 2025. This isn't just, shielding a few transactions here and there. This is a full-fledged multi-layer infrastructure project.
It is a profound commitment. They recognize that for true enterprise adoption and for fulfilling that digital sovereignty promise, privacy has to be architected at the deepest possible level. And they've established 3 distinct layers for this infrastructure.
Okay, let's detail how those 3 structural layers interact, starting with the front end, the user experience.
The first is the UX layer. This includes privacy-embedded wallets. The design goal here is to make privacy the default, seamless experience, not some clunky multi-step process.
So the user just interacts with their assets normally.
Exactly. And all the cryptography needed to shield the transfer happens automatically in the background, right in the wallet interface.
Then we move down to the middle layer, the dedicated infrastructure layer, which sounds essential for handling all those shielded data queries.
Correct. This layer uses specialized tools like Subsquid indexing and broadcaster services. Subsquid is a service that helps query and index blockchain data. When data is shielded, it's really hard to query your balances or transaction history efficiently because you can't just read the public ledger.
Right.
So this dedicated indexing service has to track the shielded data in a way that lets the authorized user query their own history without revealing the underlying data to the indexer itself.
And the broadcaster services, what do?
They manage the secure, encrypted transmission of private transaction proofs and metadata. They make sure the necessary components of a shielded transaction, the zero-knowledge proof, proving ownership and validity, are broadcast across the network quickly without revealing any confidential data.
Okay, and finally, the bedrock, the cryptographic core.
This is the ZK-SNARK circuits layer. These are the mathematical blueprints that dictate how a user can prove a statement like, I have enough money to make this payment without revealing any of the actual numbers.
The magic math.
The complex math that allows for high performance, verifiable, and secure private computation.
So where are they in this process right now?
They're currently in phase 1, the foundations phase. This involves 2 major efforts happening in parallel. First, adapting the ZK-SNARK contracts to be perfectly compatible with the Telos EVM. And second, critically, conducting the public ceremony to generate the essential Telos-specific verification keys.
And that leads us to the most complex and, I would argue, the most risky part of the entire privacy implementation. This specific event, the Trusted Setup Ceremony, was initiated on November 21st, 2025 for the privacy layer. It's a necessary, really high-stakes cryptographic ritual that's required for the specific type of ZK snarks they've chosen to use.
It is.
So can we break down the inherent contradiction here for the listener? We're building a trustless system, but it requires a trusted setup. Why is this initial ceremony necessary? Why can't they just use a trustless setup from the start?
It all stems from the specific math used in some of the early, highly optimized DK-SNARK schemes. To create the public parameters, the common reference string, that are needed to generate and verify proofs, an initial secret seed, or what they call toxic waste, has to be generated.
And if this toxic waste, this secret seed, is known or kept by a single person or entity,
Then that entity gains the ability to generate fraudulent zero-knowledge proofs that look completely valid to the network. They could potentially mint unauthorized tokens or compromise the entire system without anyone ever knowing.
that's the core security risk.
That's it. This is why the setup must be trusted, meaning the community has to trust that the toxic waste has been verifiably destroyed immediately after it's used.
So that's why the ceremony is public, multi-phase, and involves multiple participants. It's about decentralizing that initial trust requirement.
Absolutely. The ceremony has two phases, the powers of Tau and the circuit parameter generation. The powers of Tau is a universal process that generates a foundational common reference string.
Okay.
Then the circuit parameter generation uses that string to create the specific cryptographic keys needed for the TLS privacy layer circuits. By having, potentially hundreds of individuals contribute to this process, each one generating a piece of the secret and then destroying it, the security model shifts.
How so?
The protocol is secure as long as at least one participant is honest and successfully destroys their portion of the secret.
It's a collective security guarantee built on the assumption that total collusion is basically impossible. But this raises a competitive question. Some newer ZK protocols, like those using Starks, are moving toward trustless setups. Why is Telos opting for a trusted setup here?
That's the critical competitive context. Telos is optimizing heavily for speed and small proof size, or what's called succinctness. The ZK-SNARK variants that require a trusted setup often provide the smallest proof size and the fastest verification times.
Which is essential for a high-performance L1 integrated privacy layer.
Exactly. While trustless setups eliminate the ceremony risk, they often result in larger proof sizes or slower verification times. Telos is prioritizing the maximum performance that a trusted setup can deliver, and they're managing the risk through the decentralized nature of the ceremony itself.
So it's a key trade-off: speed and succinctness in exchange for the complexity of the ceremony. But once that ceremony is successfully completed, the foundation for the MVP is laid.
And the MVP deployment is targeted for the end of 2025. Once this is live, the features are just transformative for the network's utility. We're talking about private multi-asset accounts, so users can shield different types of tokens, not just the native currency.
And what are the security features that get enabled immediately with this MVP?
Well, the privacy layer immediately incorporates quantum-hardened security primitives. They're researching quantum-resistant cryptography long-term, but the MVP uses current cryptographic standards that are enhanced to anticipate future threats.
So the shielded data is highly resilient.
Very. And crucially, it enables shielded value transfers and, because of that Telos EVM 2.0 foundation, high-performance L1 integrated private computation. Privacy doesn't come with the typical speed penalty.
That's the immediate utility. But for their venture production studio model to succeed, they're going to need enterprise features. They have to address compliance. What happens in the 2026 scaling plan?
The post-MVP roadmap for 2026 focuses on bridging that gap between privacy and compliance, which is absolutely essential for real-world enterprise use. This includes rolling out mobile wallet support for iOS and Android, making these powerful privacy features truly portable.
And most importantly,
They plan to integrate compliance features, most notably view keys.
view keys are the mechanism that resolves that conflict between total privacy and regulatory necessity. How will they function?
So a view key is a specialized private key that the user controls. They can choose to selectively share this key with an audited third party, a regulator, an auditor, a compliance officer, and that allows that party to view only the specific transaction details for that account.
But they can't spend the funds.
Never. They can't spend the funds. It allows enterprises to use the privacy layer for sensitive internal processes like payroll or supply chain management while still remaining fully auditable and compliant with reporting laws.
That kind of flexibility is the difference between a niche crypto tool and truly enterprise-ready infrastructure.
Absolutely. And they're also planning enterprise-ready pools, likely specialized shielded pools for high-volume corporate transactions and extensive SDK and API development. This lets developers easily build sophisticated shielded DeFi apps private payroll systems, and even highly secure confidential governance tools right on the platform.
Okay, so infrastructure needs utility. The fastest, most private chain in the world won't matter without liquidity and user engagement. So let's explore the non-ZK but equally critical pillars of this pivot. What does all this mean for the native token, TLOS, and the wider ecosystem?
Enter Telos X. This is their next-generation crypto exchange, launching alongside the ZK EVM. It's designed to be the internal economic engine of that venture production studio.
How so?
It focuses specifically on streamlining token listings for new ventures, enhancing overall liquidity, and expanding the utility of the TLS token across all the trading pairs.
An exchange launched by the core team has been done before, but they often serve pretty limited goals. What's the structural advantage here, and how does it fulfill that shared ownership mandate?
The structural advantage lies in how they've integrated the exchange's success directly back into the token's economics through the buy or burn program. This is a direct value accrual mechanism that is also subject to decentralized governance.
Okay, let's detail that mechanism. Frame it with an insight into why this might be structurally superior to other deflationary models we see in Web3.
The mechanism is pretty straightforward. Trading fees generated on the exchange automatically purchase TLOS tokens from the open market. This creates constant organic demand for the native asset that's tied directly to the platform's commercial success.
Right.
But the key structural insight is what happens next. The community members get to vote on what to do with those tokens, whether to burn them, which reduces supply and creates deflationary pressure, or to repurpose them for ecosystem development and funding new ventures.
Why is that better than just a simple automated burn?
It adds dynamic utility and governance. A simple, hard-coded burn is predictable, but it's rigid. By letting the community vote, Telos X becomes a governance tool.
So if the ecosystem needs capital for a grant or a marketing push,
The community can vote to repurpose the tokens to fund that growth. If the community feels supply reduction is more critical at that moment, they vote to burn. It gives TLOS holders an active, adaptive economic lever to manage the token supply and fund the venture production studio's operations based on real-time needs.
it's effectively decentralizing the treasury management of the network's commercial activity. That is a direct fulfillment of that shared ownership principle.
And while Telos X is focused on internal liquidity, the strategic objective also has to address the major challenge in crypto: blockchains operating as isolated silos.
Right.
So Telos is actively broadening its cross-chain functionality to make sure that this new ZK infrastructure is easily accessible from any major network.
What are the specific integrations that are designed to solve this friction problem?
We have several launches, each designed to cover different user needs. First, there's ooMoney, which is focused on expanded, efficient cross-chain asset transfers. This is likely optimized for high-volume movement of stable assets.
Okay, and for users who want broad currency access.
For that, they've integrated SimpleSwap, which immediately provides access to a huge universe of over 2,000 currencies. So if you're a user holding some niche asset on another chain, this integration gives you a straightforward, immediate path to get TLOS or interact with the Telos ecosystem's apps.
And the third one, SwapSpace, is focused on optimization.
Exactly. SwapSpace provides price optimization, offering competitive rates across over 600,000 trading pairs. When you look at these three tools together, efficient transfer, broad access, and price optimization, Telos is systematically dismantling the friction of moving value onto their chain.
And connecting this back to our learner audience, this is the infrastructure that makes the entire ZK pivot actually matter. You can have the fastest, most private tech, but if it takes 30 minutes and a complex series of swaps just to get your funds there, adoption will lag.
These integrations are the on-ramps. They're positioning Telos not as an isolated island, but as a high-speed hub that's accessible from any corner of the crypto landscape. It ensures that the benefits of the ZK EVM and the privacy layer are immediately available to the entire Web3 user base.
Utility isn't just about financial access, though. It's also about the user experience. The upcoming Web3 wallet unification seems focused on making the entire ecosystem feel seamless.
It's the user interface for digital sovereignty. The goal is to unify access across the entire Telos ecosystem, meaning a single, secure point of interaction for all the new and existing products.
What specific functionalities are they integrating into this Swiss Army knife of a wallet?
Pretty much everything, from DeFi apps and payment services to governance tools, which reinforces that manifesto's shared ownership principle. Crucially, they're also integrating real-world asset, or RWA, tools.
Which is becoming more and more important.
Given the push towards enterprise adoption, RWA features are becoming essential, and the wallet is positioned to be the primary gateway for this next generation of utility.
And beyond utility, engagement matters. They're developing a gamification platform called Takika.
Kika is designed to drive continuous community involvement and education. It's a gamified quest platform where users complete specific tasks, maybe trying out the new privacy layer or submitting a governance vote, and in return, they earn dynamic NFTs.
And the key is dynamic.
The key is dynamic. These NFTs evolve based on the user's continued progress and engagement. They serve as visual proof of their involvement and expertise within the expanding Telos ecosystem.
It's a pretty smart way to incentivize users to learn about the new complex features like ZK EVMs and Snarkadder. You're turning technical exploration into a rewardable game.
And finally, there's the exploration of the meme coin terminal. While, it's often seen as purely speculative, this fits perfectly into the venture production studio identity. It provides a simple, accessible, and creative platform for users to launch and engage with new digital assets.
So it harnesses that organic community energy.
It harnesses that energy and liquidity, allowing Telos to facilitate the rapid creation of new, community-driven ventures, keeping the ecosystem vibrant and alive.
So the strategy is holistic. Technical excellence with ZK, liquidity generation with Telos X, external accessibility through cross-chain, and deep user engagement with Takika. We've covered a massive, aggressive roadmap for Q4 2025. It is an infrastructure blitz. Now let's look ahead. What is the strategic focus for 2026 and the ultimate multi-year trajectory through 2030?
The 2026 plan is really focused on optimizing and exploiting the immense technical stack they're building right now. The emphasis shifts from construction to growth enablement and enterprise refinement.
What are the immediate priorities after the major ZK launches?
First and foremost, new developer tools and SDKs. The deployment of the ZK EVM and the privacy layer is only half the battle. If the tools are too complex, developers won't use them.
Right.
They need user-friendly documentation, SDKs, and tutorials to onboard developers rapidly. That fosters ecosystem growth and ensures the chain doesn't become a ghost town of excellent technology.
So the ZK infrastructure is the product and the developer tools are the packaging.
Precisely. Second, there's the continued intensive focus on enterprise adoption and real-world use cases. This involves actively securing partnerships and integrating the shielded capabilities of the privacy layer into tangible business solutions, things like secure supply chain tracking or intercompany settlements.
And on the technical side, that privacy layer MVP, it needs to be robustly scaled.
Absolutely. The plan details privacy layer scaling upgrades and the rollout of further enterprise features we discussed, particularly those refined compliance tools like view keys and the specialized enterprise-ready pools. They're maximizing the utility of the complex ZK infrastructure they spent the previous quarter building.
Zooming out now, what is the ultimate positioning Telos is aiming for by the end of the decade? What are the big research and development bets they are making?
The broader roadmap reveals a serious commitment to future-proofing. One major area of R&D mentioned is research into quantum-resistant cryptography. This shows a long-term mindset that recognizes current cryptographic standards, while robust now, could eventually be threatened by advanced quantum computers.
That research is vital. I mean, if the privacy layer and the ZK EVM are based on math that might break in 20 years, their promise of digital sovereignty is inherently fragile.
Exactly. It's an investment in decades-long security. Their overall goal remains clear: positioning Telos as a leading platform for decentralized applications. This means being recognized not just for speed, which their DPoS Foundation and EVM 2.0 deliver, but for being the most feature-rich, scalable, and secure environment, especially for sophisticated dApps that require those zero-knowledge privacy features.
And let's just reinforce the ultimate guiding principle of the network. All these technical components have to map back to that strategic identity.
The long-term vision is the sustained realization of the Telos Manifesto: to become a community-owned Web3 venture production studio with an emphasis on digital sovereignty and shared ownership. Every single technical component, the decentralized Snarkadder, the community-governed buy or burn program, the privacy layer's view keys, is engineered to serve that strategic identity.
It's a comprehensive framework where the technology and the philosophy are just inseparable.
They're building an integrated digital economy where the community owns the platform, the projects, and their own data.
That concludes our deep dive into the Telos ZK pivot. What we've seen is an unprecedented, coordinated infrastructure push condensed into a very, very short timeline.
To recap the intensity of Q4 2025, they simultaneously optimized the L1 with EVM 2.0, partnered with Ponos for a hardware-accelerated ZK-L2, integrated the recursive proof aggregation engine Snarkator, and critically, initiated that high-stakes, trusted setup ceremony for a dedicated enterprise-ready privacy layer.
This isn't just about scaling or privacy in isolation. It's a synergistic attack on the biggest bottlenecks in Web3, and it's reinforced by a new commercial engine, Talos X, and an aggressive approach to cross-chain interoperability.
The central insight here is the dedication to building a full, high-speed, and secure platform. They are utilizing the most advanced cryptographic concepts, ZK EVMs, and Snarkator to deliver on a non-technical promise: digital sovereignty.
And the hardware is key.
The hardware acceleration is absolutely key, as it aims to translate complex math into real-world performance gains that could fundamentally shift the economic viability of ZK-proof generation.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought for you, the listener, as you consider the future of scaling solutions. Telos is putting a massive bet on the synergy between two pillars: hardware acceleration and recursive proof aggregation.
So, considering the immense complexity and the current competitive landscape, where many L2s struggle with proof generation cost and speed, how might this successful deployment of Telos's ZK initiatives, specifically this combination of hardware-software co-design and Snarkator, reshape the entire competitive landscape?
It's a big question.
If they succeed in making ZK proofs cheap and near instantaneous, does that fundamentally change the economics for every other Layer 1 and Layer 2 solution that is not leveraging specialized silicon? We encourage you to explore the specifics of recursive proof aggregation and hardware-software co-design and what that truly means for transaction throughput in a decentralized, sovereign digital world.
Food for thought indeed. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
See you next time.